All right, here we go. We have iconic fashion designer Jeff Hamilton. Welcome to VladTV.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh man, I mean, you have so many iconic jackets, that was worn by Kobe, worn by Michael Jordan, as well as, helping to start Guess for Men, doing outfits from Michael Jackson to Drake to everyone else. Really definitely honored to have you here.
I'm flattered and proud to be here. I'm a big fan of yours as well.
Thank you. This is your first time here. I want to start at the beginning. So you're born in Morocco.
Yes, I am.
Okay. And then you moved to Paris when you were 10?
Yes.
Okay. And are you Moroccan or are you?
I'm actually Jewish, born in Morocco, and so during the 6 Day War, my parents felt like we need to leave an Arab country, even though Morocco was it's a beautiful country and a very safe country, and I'm still very proud of being born in Morocco. We moved to France, and so I moved to France from the age of 10 till the age of 24. Did my studies in France, mostly math and physics. Never thought I was going to be in the clothing schmata business, and I moved here when I was 24, 25 years old.
What made you move over to the U.S. at that age?
Growing up as a kid in Morocco and in France, I always had the big American dream. I mean, I dreamt about everything about American culture. I mean, I was a big Lou Alcindor and Jerry West and Will Chamberlain fan. I love the fashion. Everybody that came to America always had to bring me some of those sweatshirts with those university logos, and I love the whole American culture. And listen, I'm born in '55, so for me the '60s when I was growing up was like the heart of the Beatles and Rolling Stones and all the rock and roll. So for me that was a very big influence in my life.
Okay. And were you doing fashion back in Paris, or did that start once you got to the US?
No, I had no idea. I always loved fashion, and I kind of consider that I had myself a good taste. But no, when I moved to America, I knew I wanted to be in the fashion business, but I had no clue of where to even start. I didn't even know you even needed to make a pattern to make a pair of jeans or a shirt or a jacket. So, but I learned on the job.
Okay. What were your first few jobs in fashion?
When I came to America, I could not find a job. I mean, I really was, I was illegal. I was already married with 2 kids. I mean, I married when I was 19. I had 2 kids when I was 24, 25 years old. I came into America with $6,000, rent an apartment actually not far from here. And I was looking for a job. And finally, I found a job as a rep, selling from only in the jobbers, like sometime in downtown Los Angeles, going from a jobber to another jobber, buying from these guys, selling it, making a couple of dollars. And I couldn't work for anybody else. So I basically started doing it myself and picking up $2 here, $3 there. And my dream was always to go out and start designing something. And so I started like a couple of different products. When Ralph Lauren was hot with the polo shirt, I came up with the same shirt and created like a company called Golf with a double F. And instead of having the polo player, I had a golf player on it. And then I met the Marcianos in the '82, and we became close friends. And they had just started the company, Guess, and they had another company. They were a very, very small company. The whole company was like less than $2 million at the time. And most of the business was done through their own stores, not even selling to other department stores. And we started talking about me doing the men's. I knew the concept of licensing because in Europe, it's something that was very common. Though in the 80s, I mean, you would hear about licensing with Pierre Cardin and this and that, but it was not as a big tool for business in America at the time, at least in the clothing business. And I offered them to take the license. And, I just was able to negotiate some kind of deal, and I got the license to do them Guess for Men, and I ended up being the first licensee ever for Guess jeans.
Okay, so that means that you had your own clothing line, but Guess allowed you to put their logo on these jeans and other,
Right.
forms of men's clothing.
With a small difference, I didn't have my own clothing line.
You did.
I just basically said, I want to do whatever you guys do in women, I want to do in men's. And don't know how to design the line. Never been the designer in my life.
Huh.
Let me figure out how to do it. So they gave me the rights to put basically their logo against a commission that was giving them a royalty on everything that I was doing. Went through my closet, look at that pair of jeans that I like, or that shirt that I like, or that jacket I like, and basically kind of like, I say, well, I like that, but for my line, maybe instead of having the pocket that way, I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. I'm going to make it smaller. Maybe I'm going to add a piece of leather here. And as I started evolving, I became a designer by necessity. I mean, I was a businessman first, but I became a designer by necessity. But though I enjoy more being the designer aspect of my life rather than the business part of it.
Okay, so did you have to pay them up front to get this licensing deal, or was it just a strictly commission?
There was a little bit of both.
A little bit.
There was a little bit, but it was such a minor amount. I mean, if you in today's money, it was nothing compared to.
Okay, because I remember, if you talk about the '80s, being a hip hop kid, like the Guess overalls were like the hottest thing,
right?
In sort of urban, I guess, streetwear is what you would call it these days. Back then, it wasn't called that. Were you responsible for that?
Yes.
So you did the Guess overalls.
I did the women's had a Guess overall, but I did the men's overall. I remember, if you remember, the flat pants, the jeans with the big flaps.
Yeah.
I did the jacket with the leather on the top, with the jeans that had the leather on the back. I invented the leather with the jeans, and the women's company did it as well after me. But we basically fed off each other, and it was a great moment because nobody at the time did anything crazy like we did. And we were able to basically have such an amazing penetration in the marketplace and the department stores. And the company blew from me starting the company in 1983, January 15, 1983, to January of 1985, in 1985, doing $75 million in sales.
Wow.
From $22,000 2 years prior to that. And in the meantime, I got my green card, spoke a little bit better English, but, not that I'm speaking well English now, but at least, at the time I was, not speaking well at all.
Well, yeah. And I mean, during that time, Guess really established itself as really one of the hottest brands at that point. I remember even like rappers were, Eazy-E was mentioning Guess.
Yeah.
He knocked the pig in the head for ripping his Guess. You started to see it really penetrate into really what was hot. And everyone had to wear Guess jeans. Like I said, if you didn't really wear the overalls, you definitely had a pair of jeans.
Yeah, sure.
And I remember the stores and the malls and everything.
I remember Carl Lewis, was the hottest thing in the 1984 Olympics. I mean, he was wearing Guess everywhere he went. So
right.
And it's not like they were coming in and getting it for free. Everybody was going in the stores and buying it, So it's because there was not much other choices. I mean, there was those amazing brands, and all nothing but respect to Levi's and Wrangler and Lee, but those were the brands. And Sassoon and Jordache were great brands as well, but they were more, they're more feminine. They were not as hip as where we were because we basically went a level above. And besides that, we were much more expensive than anybody else. Mm-hmm. And the quality stood behind it. And it was a lot of passion, a lot of hard work that made the brand on my end. And the women's brand, even though we didn't get along, did an amazing job as far as creation and advertising and putting us putting everybody on the map, that we made a difference in the culture.
So what happened with you and Guess?
I became too successful too quickly.
Okay.
So I had a 3-year license, and then when my license expired, they tried to take away my license before the fact, and that did not work. So we got into big litigation and all kind of different things. They didn't win, but I didn't win either. So I ended up finishing my contract, and just moved on to better and bigger things, and not necessarily in terms of finances, but as far in terms of happiness and creativity and allowing me to put my mark in a culture that I love, which is the space that I'm in.
Right. So after you left Guess, that's when you got into leather.
Yeah, I just, I really was going to do another lifestyle brand. And at that time, I was known as Jeff Hamilton. Obviously, that's not my Jewish French name. But that was the name of my company. And people knew me. I had such a huge following that people start referring to me as Jeff Hamilton. So it was a natural transition for me to go out and call myself Jeff Hamilton, even though as of today, I have not yet changed my legal name.
What's your actual name?
From Jeff Bobot to Jeff Hamilton.
Okay.
And my credit cards still have my real name, and my kids, my family still have my name. But I'm very proud to be Jeff Hamilton. So it was a natural transition for me to do that. And and knowing that I am so passionate and I work so hard on what I love to do. That for me to be the face of my own brand and me being able to back up my quality and my designs with me being responsible for whatever I do that's what I think made a big difference in my career.
Okay, so you decided to start doing leather jackets. So how'd you end up hooking up with various NBA players initially?
So when I decided to do the lifestyle brand, it was the 80s. My hair was all the way to my shoulder. And I started buying, I was a wealthy guy. I'm not 27, 28 years old. I was making like in 1984, I made $6 million, like in my tax return. So, it was like really, I don't even know how much it would translate into today's money, but it was ridiculous. I was not into drugs. I was not into alcohol. I was not into gambling. So I was really doing well, but I was riding Harleys and I was like hobnobbing with like James Caan and Billy Idol and all of the big stars, and that started getting into those guys, and I really wanted to look cool because I was into fashion. I couldn't find cool leather jackets. There was a lot of beautiful. I have nothing but respect for all the other brands, so you'll never hear me talking bad about any other brand. Couple of exceptions. I guess I don't know the sin ever then. But so I started designing funky, crazy leather jackets for myself. Just not knowing that I didn't even know how to make a leather jacket because it's so complicated. The craft that I was putting in, the work I was putting in was so difficult that I was doing it by hand and with little scissors, cutting with my team, cutting little logos, stitching it and sewing it one by one. And everybody started loving those jackets. And, so I said, you know what? Maybe I'll put it in my line. But I knew I didn't want to produce it because it was so complicated to do. So I charged very high prices. People didn't care. They still bought it. And I started making them. And I started making the jackets. One of the first guys was George Michael. Just, and not directly through me, through a store. Bought the jacket. And put in his videos, and
this is like for like Faith,
for Faith, for all the other subsequent videos, and then there was Andrew Dice Clay, then there was Madonna in how you call Borderline, her first video. The guy who's walking the streets wearing a Guess jacket at the time. And then I some of the NBA players came to me and they said, we want you to make some jackets for us. Actually the first one was Reggie Theus. And I was good friends with him and his wife. And his wife said, you know what? Magic wants you to make him some stuff. So I got to do some stuff for Magic. And Magic told me, said, what? Michael wants you to do some stuff for him. And, I always tell the story to people. I said, one day I was in my office. And at the time when we had receptionists at the office and we were not answering our own cell phones, and they said, there's a Michael Jordan on the phone for you. I said, that's impossible. And that was Michael Jordan.
So with Magic Johnson initially, what kind of things were you doing for him?
I think, I don't really recall exactly the design to be three candy. I think it would have to be something, and it was NBA related, where we did just like a small little NBA logo on the chest or something like that. But then with Reggie Theat, they just had moved from Kansas City Royals to Sacramento Kings. And he put me together with all his teammates, and his teammates started coming in, and some of the Clipper guys started coming in. And one after the one, it became all of them wanted me to do special stuff. And then I started making official deals with the NBA and with the NFL and with the NHL and with baseball. And all those licenses start coming to me. And then I started working in creating product for the public as well.
Okay, so when you hooked up with Jordan, what happened after you guys started talking?
Nothing much. We just made a few jackets for him at the time, and I don't think I met him officially till I think 1991.
Okay, that's when you went
I might have met him like very rapidly, like very quickly in one of the games or something like that. But 91 was probably the first time I met him officially.
Okay. And that was the year he went to the championships.
Yes.
Okay. And then he insisted on having a jacket from you.
No, he didn't know anything about the jacket. But
Oh,
at the time,
that came later.
Yeah.
Okay. So initially,
so
the 91 championship.
92, 93 was not a big. I started making the championship jacket, but I really didn't have that whole plan that the jackets were waiting in the locker room and so on and so forth. I made a jacket for Scotty, and which I think it was his second year coming out as a rookie. Actually, the first guy who made a jacket for the Chicago Bulls championship was Cliff Levingston.
Okay.
So, some people might not even remember him anymore, but he was a great guy. And but really, the whole hype started coming in when. In 95, when he came back from retirement, 96, when he came back from retirement and he won the championship, I made the jacket. And at that time, I was in a locker room with the jacket waiting for him. And right away, he put the jacket, and that was like the whole feeling that's what really created the whole concept of like, you put the jacket right now, you immediately, it's like you get your immediate gratification, instant gratification that you get your championship ring, that you don't have to wait 4 months to get it. You get it right away.
Okay, because wasn't there a story about how Jordan refused to like start his press conference until he got your jacket or something like that?
No, I never heard that. No. But there was the story is that as soon as he came out, especially that was in the 98 championship when he was in Utah, when he came out of the thing, the first thing that he had that actually his bodyguard come and pick me up at my seats after the game, because I had told him previously that I had the jacket ready if he won the championship. So I had the jacket with me. As soon as he won the championship, I walked into the locker room and he said, that's the famous line, Jeffrey, where's my coat? And he put it on right away. And of course, like me, I'm a kid. I was like my smile from year to year, like just like enjoying the moment. And I remember the late Stuart Scott came to me and said, well, come over. I want to do an interview. I said, well, I'm talking to Michael. I'm not going to let that time. Every second is precious for me, And he said, well, you can talk to Michael, or you can be in front of 60 million people advertising your jacket. It's up to you. So I did that. And then, of course, I took a bunch of other pictures. After that, I went to the locker room with him and Scotty and Ron Harper. And it was just memorable memories in my life.
Right, because you actually made the Dream Team jackets in
did
92.
too.
And you actually went to Barcelona.
I did.
With the team.
Yes.
And actually were with them the entire time.
The whole time, yeah. And actually I was driving, I was blessed to have lunch or dinner because, very few people know that the games were starting at 10:30 at night, local time there because of the time change. And so we would have dinner around 6 o'clock at night, and I would have dinner with them and their families. And I would go on the bus with them. With the family. And I had all my locker room passes. And so I would be, I would see them. One other thing interesting about Michael, and as you can tell, I'm a big fan. Everybody's a big fan of Michael. How can you not be? I pride myself in saying that I went to every single finals game he's ever played in his entire career. And none of the playoff, every finals game he's ever played in his career. I went with him to Barcelona. I went with him to Paris. So I'm very privileged to have all those beautiful memories in my life.
Oh yeah, and that dream team was just so iconic because in 1992, I guess they changed the rules where that was the first time professional players could actually play in the Olympics in the United States, even though other countries were sort of fudging the rules a little bit. That was the first time officially you had all these NBA players able to play against the rest of the world in the Olympics, and they demolished everybody. They won on an average of 44 points per game. It wasn't even close.
No, but it was so pleasant to see it. I mean, especially knowing all those guys, and I was pretty close with all those players, and I still am, and it was just such a pleasure just to see them play, and it was, imagine an all-star game, and it's just like it was so fantastic. Charles Barkley and Magic and Larry Bird and Patrick Ewing and David Robinson and Chris Mullin. I mean, all those guys were like such icons. And
yeah, and you actually have an autographed jersey from each one of those guys.
I did. Unfortunately, I sold that. I sold it. I had the real jerseys, all the real game jerseys of all of them, and also had a jacket signed by all of them together. Also,
crazy.
And and unfortunately, a few years back, I sold all of it. And
you sold everything?
Yeah, I regret it. But
how much did it sell? How much did all that sell for?
I don't want to say it, but it
was millions.
It's a lot of. Today would be,
Okay.
And today would be because it was with game day jerseys,
Right.
game worn jerseys, and I had the backing to go with it. Not only I had a picture with all of them with the gold medals and everything together, plus I also had the locker room passes or hotel, and the fact that I stayed in a hotel with them, the whole history. So it was very well documented.
Well, in '93, you designed Michael Jackson's jacket for the Super Bowl?
I did one jacket for him for the Super Bowl, but he didn't wear it on stage. But before the event, he wore it. Just a little bit what same thing like the Weeknd did it last year. I made a bunch of jackets for him, but during the performance, he did not actually wear the actual jacket. But yeah, I've done a lot of stuff for Michael Jackson over the years because when I started making money and in my 20s, I bought a beautiful home in Beverly Hills, which I didn't want to live into it, so I ended up renting it to Jermaine Jackson.
Oh, okay.
And I started becoming, because of whatever I did, and we became all good friends with the whole family, and that's how I met Michael, and became very good friend with Jermaine, which I still am, and Jackie and Tito and the whole family, Randy and LaToya. I did her cover of Playboy magazine when she did Playboy magazine about 30 years ago. So I actually ended up doing designing all the jackets for the Victory Tour as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Aha. Wow. Okay. For the Jackson 5.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Actually, it was Jackson 6 at the time because Randy came along.
Oh yeah. Right. What do you think was your greatest Michael Jackson story?
Really not a lot of, other than the fact that when you meet him in person, my experience, I don't know about anybody else, but I can tell you, he seemed to be, didn't have that voice, spoke normally. There was no act like that. It was just, it seemed to be very, very gentle and very sweet. I don't know what happened in the past or after that, but I don't know much about it. But my one-on-one interaction was a very warm and very very nice person.
What about Michael Jordan? What do you think was your greatest Jordan
Michael
story?
Jordan is Michael Jordan. I mean, he's one of the 5 persons in my life that I met him, I would say 50 times, 100 times in my life, and my heart just pops out of my chest every time I meet him. It's just like when you're around greatness and you feel like it's just I'm 66 years old. Like I'm like a little kid with feeling that my legs are trembling when I'm around him. So it's just such an iconic person for me. I mean, he's the king of the culture. I mean, I don't believe that we would have the culture that we have today without him, whether it's music, whether it's sneakers, whether it's fashion, whether it's weed, whether it's hip hop, all of it goes around, or street art, everything is around. He's a center point for everything. And
I mean, yeah, I mean, you could say that after Michael Jackson passed away, Michael Jordan became the most popular human being on earth. I mean, think about it. Who was more popular?
You had Muhammad Ali. All depends where you're coming from. I'm talking like
depends on the age, but I think overall, in terms of because Muhammad Ali was much older,
right?
By that time.
But when you think about like hip hop culture, that's when I mention culture. That's why I think like starting in the 90s all the way to carrying to today. I don't know that Michael Jackson had that much of and no disrespect to Michael Jackson or his legacy. He was an amazing artist. Everybody loved him, but it's just not as strong as what Michael Jordan was and is, and still is, as the icon that he is.
Well, by 2000, the NBA wanted you to do the championship jackets for the Lakers.
No, before that, 1997. Also, I did the 50 greatest players.
Okay, you did the 50 greatest players, but then by 2000,
I already was doing the license. I've been a licensee with the NBA since 1988. So I've basically been doing jackets with all that. That was kind of my doing of. They didn't ask me to make the championship jacket. I made them. I got the NBA to approve them, and I kind of used my relationship with Shaq and the NBA and Kobe for me to make sure they put it on their back after they won the championship. And obviously, knowing that Michael did it before, it was easy just to kind of. It was a roadmap for all the new championship teams to do it.
Okay, and your relationship with Kobe, how did that start?
It was an amazing. I had an amazing relationship. I met him when he was a rookie, but again, Kobe was 17 when I met him. So for me, it was as great and as fantastic of a player he was. He's just like an icon, and what he changed the game. And it was Kobe. I mean, I knew him. I was comfortable, and but again, he carried on the torch of what Michael was doing, and he did very well.
Right, and there's the iconic photo in 2001,
right
after Kobe won the championship, and he's in the bathroom, I guess in the shower actually,
right,
wearing your jacket, like clutching the trophy. You can't tell whether he's in tears or just in thought or what, but it was just a very, very iconic
It is
photo.
Probably one of, my good friend Andy Bernstein took the picture, and it's probably one of the most iconic pictures in the NBA. There is a beautiful story about that, because I'm one of the very few that was there in that shower when it happened. Everybody was looking for Kobe all over. No, we didn't know where the trophy and where the trophy was and where Kobe was. We couldn't find him. And so one of the assistants of Andy Bernstein said he's in the shower. So we ended up going when that picture was taken, we were only 4 people there right live taking that picture. And that picture is like frozen in time into my brain, So and he was having a moment. There's no question. It was not a reflecting moment. It was a sad moment for him. I think it was a personal issue that he was having with his family, and he was just not. It was very sad. Even when I took pictures out of the shower with him, and I had pictures of him and I after that, he was just like very down and depressed. Even though it was a beautiful moment and a beautiful victory when he won, and that was, I remember, that was in Philly when he won, and that picture was taken.
Yeah. Well, I think that same year you met LeBron while he was still in high school.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there's a story behind that.
Yeah, it's just at that point, like I told you, I was making jackets, and I as I referred to you, I love memorabilia. I collect a lot of memorabilia. So a friend of mine at one of the trade shows, came and said, I'm from Akron, and have you heard of this kid LeBron James, yeah, the whole world talks about him in Sports Illustrated. Everybody, they're talking about the next big superstar. So I would do anything just to have one of his jerseys. And I said, well, I can introduce you to his dad or his stepdad. So he introduced me to stepdad, and I said, well, I want to make a jacket for him. I will trade you for a jersey. So I made the jacket for him. I traded for the jersey from high school. And interesting enough, one store, which actually happened to be one of my big clients in Cleveland today, which I'm doing a big collaboration next weekend with the NBA All-Star Game. Incidentally, I'm also commissioned by the NBA to do the 75 greatest players, and next week I'm going to be doing that. The jackets are ready, and we're taking that to the NBA to Cleveland. He went in and picked up a couple of Mitchell and Ness jerseys at the time. Mm-hmm. And he got in trouble because as a high school kid, he couldn't get any presents. So they did a big story about him wearing a product that was he was not supposed to get as an amateur. And when they blew up that story on the Akron paper or Cleveland paper, he was actually not wearing the Mitchell and Ness jersey. He was wearing my jacket. But for some reason, nobody made a mention about my jacket. But I still have, and I have pictures of him at that time with a jacket. And interesting, and I'll forward you that picture. Interesting enough, he's wearing the jacket. He's wearing a Kobe jersey. And he was wearing a Laker jersey. And that was in, I don't know, it was maybe 1999 or 2000, something like that. And so there was the destiny was written already, that you knew he wanted to become a Laker, and he was the biggest Kobe fan. In fact, he gave me his shoes also, and his shoes were Kobe shoes.
Ah, very dope.
He came from the Kobe generation rather than the Michael generation.
Well, then in 2016, Drake reached out to you.
Right.
Talk about that project.
He called me, not him, I've done a lot of stuff with Drake, and I really just met him only last year for the first time, person to person, and, we became friends. And obviously, his team could reach out to me and say, it's going to be the All-Star Game in Toronto, and Drake wants to create some kind of a jacket as an homage to Kobe. Let's call it Farewell to Mamba. And I just basically start putting things together, putting his images, and that jacket got more coverage than any other jacket I think I made in my life.
Yeah, it was a hell of a jacket. The fact that Drake is wearing it, and it's in Toronto, and I guess you had that Toronto skyline on the jacket.
Interesting enough, I spoke to Drake a few months ago. We were at the restaurant, and I said, by the way, I always hear rumors about that jacket. Did you? We never talked about it. Did you give it to Kobe? He said no. So
right, because Kobe had already retired by this time.
Yeah, he had retired. Yes, so I said to him, I had heard rumors that you gave away the jacket to Steph Curry because Steph Curry really wants that jacket. He said, no, I did not, and I gave it. I actually have it in my house, framed in a frame in my house.
Wow.
And I said, did you get Kobe to sign it? He said, no, I don't. I did not. And actually, I have a Kobe jacket signed to me, like one of the 2002 championships signed by Kobe, which I spoke to Vanessa 2 days ago, and I'm loaning her the jacket. She's going to wear that jacket at the All-Star Game.
Oh, wow.
Most likely.
That's so dope.
And I said, it's signed by Kobe. She said, well, don't worry. I'll make sure I'll take good care of it.
Well, yeah, you've done jackets for everybody. Mike Tyson.
And again, I'm going to repeat myself. Mike Tyson, for me, the greatest celebrity and the greatest person I've ever met as far as icon. The most beautiful human being, the smartest man, very smart, loving, affectionate, honorable. One of the other guys, and again, I met him a few hundred times, him, and I had dinner and lunches and traveled, but my heart still pops out of my chest with him. He's like one of the 2 or 3 guys I told you that is very special to me. So I've done jacket for Nelson Mandela.
Yeah, how did that jacket come together?
Luckily enough, again, through the NBA. There was a present that the NBA wanted to present to him. So,
right, and Muhammad Ali as well.
Muhammad Ali was also that fits in all the stuff 5 guys. And again, a blessing for me. I mean, growing up as a kid and knowing who Muhammad Ali was, and getting to know him personally, have him come to my office, knowing his kids, knowing his family, and doing a lot of charity work with different foundations with him. It's just beautiful. I mean, it's just such a beautiful, beautiful soul and beautiful person.
Right. And then, more recently, you're doing stuff for, The Weeknd, Travis Scott, A$AP Rocky, Snoop. I saw you were at his party last night after the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that was actually the night before the Super Bowl.
Oh, it was the night before.
I had his compound, and I'm like, again, I told you I'm 66, but I'm like still acting like a kid, and it's just the fact alone, I'm right there, and he's performing and singing some of his new album, and he's shooting me out like in the middle of the song. Jeff Hamilton in the building, for me, it's like, just so special to me.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you've really worked with some of the, most iconic human beings of this era.
I'm blessed. It is a blessing. It's just like, I tell people, it's just like, it sounds, sometimes people might not believe that they think it's just it's about money. We're here in business for money, but I'm at this stage of my life. I mean, it's just so beautiful just to be able to do something I love, that I'm passionate, and being creative and being able to create. Like today I was with Wiz. I'm just creating a new jacket for him, and just creating a new design for him, or whoever it is. It's just such an honor for me to be able to do and put my mark on the culture, and trying to see, and knowing that I'm building up a legacy that, in a few years when I won't be around, my jacket will live on, and maybe the work that I made live on. And it's just a very proud moment for me to be at this stage of the game, maybe the happiest I've ever been from a creative standpoint.
I mean, do you have like a craziest story, out of everyone you've worked with, all the jackets you've done, all the people you've been around? Was there just a crazy, crazy moment that you look back on?
I cannot pinpoint one of them right now. There is every moment I've had that have been crazy. So whether it's Mike Tyson when he was warming up, when I was with J Balvin, or whether it was with Anuel, or you name it, or Muhammad Ali coming into my office and doing magic tricks to all my Mexican workers. And, there's so many beautiful moments I have. I think it's time for me to start documenting those moments, because they're all in my head, but they're not memorized on video, on tape, or on paper.
Yeah. I mean, for someone to approach you and want a completely custom jacket from you, one that you actually work on yourself, how much does something like that cost these days?
It varies. I mean, and one thing you should know is I'm very accessible. I mean, I have people reaching out to me. I get 600 DMs a day. I answer every single one of them. But basically, like a custom jacket, one of a kind jacket, starts around $5,000, $6,000.
Okay.
But and I get a lot of it today, and I personally work on it every day on it myself. It's not like I farm it out to. I mean, I have a big design team, assistants, but I direct everything. There's not one piece of clothing that comes out of my place that doesn't have my touch, and even more so to make sure it's all the real deal. I sign every single piece of jacket that I make. In fact, for the 75 greatest players, I went a step above that. Not only I do the cut on the computer, but instead of doing the cut on the computer, I hand painted an actual illustration of every single jacket. I sign them, I number it. And it's not about NFT or anything digital. It's just about creating the memory and creating something that is very unique, that's way beyond just a piece of clothing that you put on. It's something that you cherish and you keep it, because, my dream is to know that some of those jackets will end up in the Hall of Fame or in some kind of museums.
Well, they're already in museums. The Grammy Museum has one of your jackets. The Hall of Fame Museum has your jackets as well.
Yes, a lot of them. I mean, even the Smithsonian Institute has some of my jackets. For some of the TV shows.
There you have it, Jeff Hamilton. Congratulations on just a very stellar career. to, as an immigrant myself, to come to this country not knowing what you're going to do, but knowing that there's opportunity here, unlike in other places, and using that drive for the opportunity to create a career that I don't think you could have imagined as a young man at all. I'm sure this every day is a surprise for you. Like, wow, I actually did all this, not even really planning to do it in the beginning.
I wake up to every day to a different blessing. And it's just like the universe has really blessed me to be able to do things that I'm passionate about. And then, I cannot wait to get up in the morning and get to work and do things that I love, and meeting beautiful people and sharing my experience with new designers and different people. It's just an amazing time in my life.
There you have it. Looking forward to what you got next.
Thank you
Appreciate
very
it.
much.
Jeff Hamilton. Peace.
Appreciate you. Thank you.